شکر کرتے Saeed has gone back? Saeed has gone back? Yeah. Saeed. Please go. Has he gone back to Iran? Saeed, pizza. I didn't think it existed that. You can't write it up. What's your opinion of this application?
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں. اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں. کیسا ہے یہ چراغ دل ڈوبے جا رہے ہیں. کیا شام آ گیا ہے. اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں. ہونے لگی اذانیں کیسے سروں کو دھانپے. بازو بندھے ہوئے ہیں خون رو رہی ہے آنکھیں. آنکھوں کے خون سے رستے خون میں نہا رہے ہیں. کیا شام آ گیا ہے. اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں. سجاد کا کلیجہ صد پاش ہو رہا ہے. ایک ایک زخم ان کا اس غم میں رو رہا ہے. زینب کا نام لے کر آدھا بلا رہے ہیں. کیا شام آ گیا ہے. اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں. نیزے پہ جتنے سر ہیں ایک سر ہے ان میں ایسا، آنکھیں ہیں بندے اس کی، اور خاک پر ہے گرتا۔ عباس کا یہ سر ہے، تیور بتا رہے ہیں، کیا شام آ گیا ہے۔ اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو، پتھر اتنا چلے ہے پیدل، کانٹوں پہ سارے قیدی، تھک جاتی چلتے چلتے، چلتی اگر زمیں بھی، پیروں کے آبلے بھی آنسو بہا رہے ہیں، کیا شام آ گیا ہے۔ اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو، پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں۔ ماؤں کے گودیوں سے لپٹے ہوئے ہیں بچے، ہے ہاتھ رسیوں میں ماؤں کے ایسے جھکرے، بچے جو گر رہے ہیں وہ مرتے جا رہے ہیں، کیا شام آ گیا ہے۔ اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو، پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں۔ اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو، پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں۔ صلو علی محمد و آل محمد۔
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد۔
Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد۔
Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Hussein, Hussein, he is the one and take the sun. The words of Fatima, give peace for Allah. Was Rabbanan, asking for his hand. I also touch my head. I would rather be dead. Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Hussein, he takes his family away from the city, away from politics, and on the dirty trail. They chase him down, you see, and hit men 70. They come to Karbala to make them so harder. Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to a call. Come and turn our pain for our beloved Hussein. Hussein, on eastern Karbala, they broke him from water. Walking rivers stay with towers in the air. They take Abbas's hand and up to the sun. The thirst of young Oscar, so crushed by his mother. Our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Hussein, after they killed the man, they captive his women. The children are prisoners. After 3 days in thirst, close your eyes and see horses on his body, his head on us beyond. Butchered Hussein, my dear, close your eyes and see horses on his body, his head on us beyond. Butchered Hussein, my dear, our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Hussein, after knowing your tale, as me of chains is fed, how can I even claim to love you and your name? For that caused me, let me from it be free. Allow me to call you with my heart so small. Our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Our voice may be small, but listen to our call. Come under our pain, for our beloved Hussein. Salawat.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Our condolences to the Imam of our time and to all the mu'mineen on the occasion of the Shahadat of Lady Masuma of Qom alayha salam. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Can I please request the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of those who have provided the Tabarruk for this evening, and for all marhumin, Surah Al-Fatiha. Mu'mineen, can I request you to join me in welcoming Sheikh Fazle Abbas for the Majlis with our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله رب العالمين الأول قبل أفضلية الأولين والباقي بعد فناء العالمين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد.
قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أرسلنا من رسول إلا ليطاع بإذن الله. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight we have gathered to commemorate the sad occasion of the wafat of the lady who is known as Sayyida Fatima bint Musa al-Kadhim, and we extend our condolences to the Imam of our time, to the Ahlul Bayt, Maraji' Izam ulai Kiram, and to the Ummah by recitation of Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. This respected lady, Sayyida Fatima bint Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, salawatullah wa salam alayhima, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, is commonly known to us as Masuma al-Qum. And we find that in the hadith which is narrated from our sixth Imam, Jaffer Sadiq salawatullah wa salam alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, he mentions about a lady who is going to be buried in a city which is called Qum. And the Imam says, تقبض فيها امرأة من ولد اسمها فاطمة بنت معصوم. So he's talking about the city of Qum, about its significance. And he says that in it is going to be buried a lady for one of our daughters from my children, whose name is Fatima, the daughter of Musa. So here by itself we can see that this hadith is the one which is of the many hadiths which is narrating or linking to this lady Sayyida Fatima being commonly called with the title of Qum because of that sharaf which was given to her from the sixth Imam to be buried in Qum. Another hadith which you find, and there are plenty of hadiths which talk about the significance, is again from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says, وَسَتُدْفَنُ فِيهَا إِمْرَأَةٌ مِّنْ وُلْدٍ. And in it, that is in the city of Qum, there is going to be buried a lady from my children, Tusamma Fatima, who is called Fatima, Man zaraha, and one who visits her, wajabat lahul Jannah, is going to be rewarded or obligatory for that person to be entering into Jannah. Now, the important point to note over here is that the hadith is first narrated from the sixth Imam alayhi salam. Second, in this hadith we find that for a person who just does the ziyarah of Sayyida Fatima in Qum, the reward for that is going to be in Jannah. And it's one where there is the condition to be fulfilled. If you will recall, very beautifully expounded by Sheikh Muhammad al-Hilli in the last Majlis, where the wafat of our 8th Imam, where he mentioned that it should not be taken on the surface level, that there is just doing the ziyarah, a person is guaranteed for Jannah. There is that condition which needs to be fulfilled. It is the preparation towards the Jannah, where the performance of the ziyarah. So, as I mentioned to you, these hadiths we see, all of them are being narrated from the sixth Imam. And Allama Majlisi is pointing out a very significant point where he says, observe the timeline. The sixth Imam is the grandfather of Sayyidah Masuma al-Qum. And when we find that the hadith have been narrated, according to Allama Majlisi, he says that these hadiths were narrated even before the birth of the son of the sixth Imam. That is, even before the birth of the father of Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'asuma. And that is the birth of the seventh Imam, al-Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. For Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam was born in 128 after Hijrah, and Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'asuma, whom we commonly call as Ma'asuma al-Qum, was born in 173. So there's a difference of at least 45 years. So here again, Allama Majlis is pointing out to us that look, hadith is from the sixth Imam. The lady herself has not yet come into existence into this world. Before her, significance of the city of Qum, before her being born, significance of doing the ziyarah, and on top of that, when you look into the sixth Imam mentioning about this, is pointing out to us that within that span, he is giving us the glad tidings or giving us advance notification of the excellence of this lady, Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'asuma. Now when we go further, we find that the eighth Imam, Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, who is now the brother of Sayyidah Masuma al-Qum, and there is an age difference of around 25 years between the two of them. Alright? So here we find that the Imam mentions in the hadith, that is the eighth Imam mentions in the hadith, Man zara al-ma'asuma bi qummin kaman zarani. One who visits Ma'asuma in Qum is like one who has done my ziyarah. Remember, Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma is still alive, the eighth Imam is still alive, and he is talking about the one who does the ziyarah of Ma'asuma al-Qum gets the reward as if he has done my ziyarah. So these four hadiths by itself, linking to them, one, the point that foretelling of this before even the birth of Sayyidah Masuma in the life of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, number one. Number two, the Imam himself, the eighth Imam says that the reward for performing a ziyarah is like one who has done my ziyarah, the reward of the ziyarah of the eighth Imam. This itself, when we have that yaqeen that these are the words of the Ma'asum Imam, is immediately pointing out to us the elevated status of this lady, Sayyidah Fatima bint Musa al-Kadhim, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. So as I mentioned, we commonly call her as Ma'asum al-Qum. How the name Qum came about? From the first two hadith, as a result of linking to a burial place. How does the name Ma'asuma come about? We find that in one of the earlier instances when the sister is alive and the eighth Imam is alive, in this hadith, Manzar al-Ma'asuma. One who visits Ma'asuma gets the reward as if he has done my ziyarah. So here is where we can see that the Imam himself, who is the brother of Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'asuma, he himself is a Ma'asum. He now, out of his status of Isma, is mentioning that one who does the ziyarah of whom, he could have mentioned the name, my sister. He could have mentioned the name Fatima, isn't it? Fatima bi Qumin. Alright? But he says the one who does the ziyarah of the Ma'asuma in Qum. So link up who is the Ma'asuma buried in Qum. When you look at those two hadiths of the sixth Imam, it is none other than this daughter of the seventh Imam and the brother of the eighth Imam. So here we find that the introduction of this lady, whom we commonly call as Ma'asuma al-Qum, is not because of some cultural thing, but it is built up on the practice which was guided to us from the sixth Imam and the eighth Imam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. So in tonight's Majlis, inshallah, we would like to look at three different areas or to discuss three different questions. The first question is that with regards to the Imam mentioning about Ma'asuma, what is Isma and what is Ma'asuma or what is Ma'asum? And the second question is with regards to the performance of action. When a person becomes a ma'asum or a ma'asuma, does that mean that that person is now deprived of free will and is now just programmed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do what has been programmed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That is the second question we're going to look at. And the third question we will look at is, what is the necessity for us to have the divine leaders such as the Prophet, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and the A'im alayhi salam to become ma'asum? What is the need for it? So inshallah, these three questions will be what we'll try to dwell within the time which is available to us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
The first question with regards to the meaning of ma'asum. To be able to understand the meaning of ma'asum, we look at the derivative which comes from the word in Arabic, isma. Alright, we commonly hear the word ismat. Alright, but it's actually isma. Ain, Sad, Mim, Ta marbuta. Isma. Isma is an word in Arabic which is conveying the message of what we would say in English to be infallible. That person is of a level whereby that person does not lie, does not carry out an error, does not mislead, does not guide, does not do any sin. And it is all because that person has a capability of putting themselves into that high level that they are no longer finding it their capability to perform any deception, any speaking of lie, any misguidance, or any form of lie or misguidance or error or sin to be performed by them. And in Aqaid Ilmul Kalam, that is our lessons of theology, we are told that Isma is a state or a grace which is granted as a lutf, as a grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a person. As a result of that grace, as a result of that lutf, the person's awareness increases and stays away from that state of becoming fallible. Because they now have that foresight as to what is the consequences or what is the state of lying, misleading, cheating, sinning. And as a result of that foresight, they have derived as a grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they protect themselves from doing any of these fallible deeds. So that is why the person is called ma'asum as a male or ma'asuma as a female, the one who is protected, isma, protected. So thereafter we find when our 8th Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi mentions in the hadith, Manzar al-Ma'asuma, again the word Ma'asuma, the lady who is a Ma'asum, alright? Gets the reward, Bikum min kamanzarani, the Ma'asuma is buried in Kum, gets the reward as if he has visited me. Again, here, linking it to what we have now talked about, the definition of Isma, that is a lutf, a protection, a grace given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This itself indicates the status of this lady. This indicates the foresight, the knowledge, all right, the character, etiquette of making the choices. This is giving an indication of not just accepting that, yeah, this is somebody who is a ma'asum to be kept like when we say hi on the Sheikh and not, no. Living as a normal human being, all right, but the grace is there for able to see the consequences, and a result of that, they protect themselves. So this hadith, in addition to indicating the status of the ziyarah, is also indicating to us the level of that ma'rifah, the level of that communication and relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they now have that ma'rifah. So this is the status of a lady who is not what we would say like the status of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, but granted that status because of the knowledge and the taqwa from great grace and love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now we come to the second question with regards to the performance of deeds. We all know that there is a thought in theology which talks about that a person, when the person is born into this world, whatever that person does is all what would be said as preordained or predestined. So when the person is born, has got no free will, has got no choice. Alright? So if the person, for example, were to steal, that person can say, this is not my choice, it was preordained, predestined, why should I be punished? Because I have done what Allah has programmed, which does not make sense in aqaid with regards to the justice, the fairness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then there is the other thought in theology which talks about the opposite extreme of predestination, Jaffer, compulsion. Alright? That the person is compelled, instead of being compelled, this is now what is said is the free will. That when man has been born onto this earth, he has been given complete free will at his own responsibility to do whatever he wants. Now that again also does not meet with the message of Islam. The message of Islam is that if human being was to be left to be just like all of the free will as such, then where is going to be the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Alright? There has got to be a set of laws that that person will follow requiring in his life. Alright? So then that man needs to follow those instructions, and that is the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a result of following those instructions, you are getting the reward, and for not following the instructions, the consequences are given over there. So there is a state which would say al-amru bayna amrain, that is between these two states, alright, which is the middle one, and that is what our aqidah is. That we are not extremely free, nor are we extremely controlled, or what we say, predestined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are in that position where you are given the choice to be able to perform that deed, and as a result of being given that choice, you take responsibility for the consequences over there. Now, when the person has now become a ma'asum, does that mean that that person is now deprived of the state of performing any choice, any deed, and is just compelled to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made up for him? This is a point of aqidah which can be understood by illustrating some simple examples. And at the onset, I would like to ask for you to forgive me for giving this type of examples, because this example is quite extreme to discuss. But I just want you to imagine that how, far-fetched this idea would be from us. When I'll give this example, and then we'll talk about the ma'asum, whether that ma'asum is restricted in performing their deeds. What are these examples? The first example is that it is an accepted practice, part of social life in the Western world, as part of what we say is liberalization of values. It is accepted to take a form of behavior which is called the naturist behavior. In very simple terms, naturist behavior means nudity. Alright? So there are naturist beaches, there are naturist clubs, resorts, and there are naturist festivals held. What happens is that, in simple words, what it means, that people move around in their birthday suits. Right? You get the message? So this is an accepted social practice, moving around in your birthday suits. And they join clubs, or they will go to these festivals, and they're even naturist beaches where they just go in their birthday suits. This is an example. Another example which happens is with regards to cyclists. You know, when cyclists are on the road, and this is a trend which is seen in major cities, they seem to be overlooked by drivers, especially the heavy trucks. All right? And their trucks tend to be the kings of the roads, and the cyclists, so many accidents take place. So in order to promote safety on the roads, in order to make the drivers become aware of cyclists' presence on the roads and to show respect to the cyclists, and in addition to that, in order to promote body confidence, there is an annual event which is known as the World Naked Bike Ride. So again, only in your birthday suits, these cyclists on the second Saturday of June in summertime would go on the roads. One, to promote safety so that the drivers know that the cyclists exist when they are in the birthday suit, so it makes a big impression. Two, courtesy of driving, all right? And three, to give body confidence. So these are two examples, which is a wide practice thing. When I give you the title, Wild Naked Bike Ride, you can imagine that this is something world practices, but more of the fast Western liberalized world as such. Now, all of us over here, Shia Ethnic Muslims, these two examples I've given with regards to the birthday suit. Would we ever think of enrolling as members of the Naturist Club? Would we ever think of going to the seaside and having a lie-about on the naturist area? Would we ever think of, on the second Saturday of June, to participate in the bike ride? Leave alone thinking. We cannot even imagine these things. Even within our private spaces, the most private space is your home, isn't it? And the most private space is the bedroom itself, the living room. All right? One would not think, with the presence of the family, to do any of these moving around in birthday suits. The most we would think about is moving in PJs, pajamas. Instead of BJs, birthday suits, we would move around in the PJs, the pajamas. Now my question is, has somebody in any way stopped you from removing your PJs and just moving around in your BJs, the birthday suits? Has anybody stopped? Nobody has stopped. Isn't it? Despite you and I knowing that nobody stops us from removing our PJs and just be dressed up in our BJs, that is the birthday suits, or taking part in the naturist clubs, or taking part in the naked bike rides, still we think we're not going to do that. Not only do that because we don't have the time or because we don't have a bicycle, but we will not even imagine a thought like that. What is it that makes you think about it? That you're not even going to think about it? Is it because you are compelled? It's not because you are compelled. You have that free will. It is because of your foresight, your knowledge, your understanding, the etiquettes by which you live in, that you have restricted yourself to it. You know that it is not for my dignity. It is not for my faith, because there is a consequence from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a consequence from my neighborhood. There is a consequence from my family itself. There is a consequence from my family and consequence within my community. So as a result of that, you choose that which is going to keep you protected from losing your honor, your dignity, and protected from gaining azab, or what you would say is iqab, or punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having gone through these two examples, we can now link it to the ma'asum. Likewise, the ma'asum or the ma'asuma cannot even think, or the thought cannot even come to their minds, because of the level of taqwa, the level of communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their foresight of their responsibility within the community and the society as such. And that is what makes them protect themselves, that is the isma, from any of these deeds which would be the fallible deed as such. Therefore, mu'mineen, we can understand that it is the ma'asum who takes the choice himself and herself. Alright? Not in any way that programmed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The choice is taken by himself or herself, and they become the shining, outstanding examples. That is why we call them as the ma'asum. And the greatest example which the Quran mentions of ma'asum is ayatul إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed desires from you the event of the clock, and by extension, the remaining imams, and that is to ward away from you any uncleanliness, risk, so that you become tahirakum. He purifies you, not just purifies you, a thorough purification. Tahirakum tathira, a thorough purification. Now, when we see that the Quran itself has introduced these leaders as one who, out of their level of their knowledge and their status of communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah certifies that they have indeed been purified as such, tell me, would we in any way have any doubts about the leadership or the instruction or the behavior, the performance which is part of the sunnah for us to emulate, when we know that this is the right model being put out to us as compared to what the wider Muslim community brought about with appointment, elections, and subcommittee, and thereafter the monarchy kingdomship which came about it. And you can see for yourselves, the deeds over there speak louder of how much dhulm, how much trespass against the actual values of Islam were done by those who put themselves as leaders upon the Muslim community, whereas these ones were role models without putting themselves into the community, but the actions, the behavior, the words were actually of the loud ones that they become the end followed by. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First, we do shukr that we are of those who have been able to recognize the wilayah of the purified ones. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that tawfiq, inshallah, and that commitment and that love for the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and follow it was the hidayah which they give to us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The third question was with regards to why is it necessary for prophets and the imams to be ma'asum. I've just introduced this, but inshallah we will discuss this slightly in further detail in our next Majlis, inshallah, which is going to be the 9th of Rabi Awwal, Eid al-Zahra, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sayyidah Fatima Masuma al-Qum, as I mentioned to you, was the younger sister of our Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. In her initial years, she was under the care of her father, the 7th Imam. And then we know the Abbasid ruler Harun al-Rashid called or summoned the 7th Imam to come to Baghdad. And the life of the 7th Imam was one of the most terrible ones in Baghdad, in the dungeons of Baghdad. So Sayyidah Masuma al-Qum was left in Medina with the care or under the care of her brother, the 8th. Afterwards, when the 8th Imam in the year 200 after Hijrah was now summoned by the Abbasid Caliph by the name of Harun al-Rashid or Ma'mun al-Rashid, who had appointed him as the Wali al-Ahad, as his heir apparent or the vicegerent, insisting that the 8th Imam needs to leave Medina and go towards Marv, a city in the province of Khurasan. So the 8th Imam first went alone to go towards Marv, and he established himself over there. Then the next year, in 201 after Hijrah, or less than 12 months as such, he invited Sayyidah Fatima to come to join him in Marv. So Sayyidah Fatima made arrangements together with the rest of the family to move towards Khurasan, the province of Khurasan, which is in Iran at the moment. On the road, they were in the areas of what is presently of Iran, and they came to a place which is known as Sawa. Am I pronouncing correctly? What's it? Sawa? It's known as Sawa. All right. Before you enter Qom, you'll see this one of the bridge points, toll points, Sawa over there. It's a big area. So when they arrived at Sawa, the city at Sawa, there, according to some riwayah, Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma fell very ill. According to some riwayah, there were some bandits who attacked the caravan of Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma, and not only did they rob the caravan, but they also inflicted injuries on the occupants of the caravan, and Sayyidah Masuma as a result was hurt, injured, and she did fall very ill at that time. So these are the two riwayat. But the net point is that Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma had now fallen very sick, injury or natural sickness as such. One of the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam by the name of Musa bin Khazraj bin Sa'ad, who was in Qawm, and he had the opportunity to meet with the Atima. When he came to know about the sister of the Atima just being closed in Sawa, he arranged to go and meet her. And he really insisted upon Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma al-Qawm to come with him to Qawm, so that there could be some treatment arranged for her and she would be well looked after rather than being in that area, whether it was prone to bandits or whatever it was, or due to sickness, she would be taken good care in Qawm as such. And the home where she arrived in Qawm till today, for those who have gone for ziyarah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our ziyarah. And for those who have not had the opportunity, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that opportunity. Remember, the ziyarah of Masuma al-Qawm is like the reward of the ziyarah of the Imam alayhi salam. When you go for ziyarah, Baytul Nur is one of the places not to be missed to visit. The place where Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma was given that welcome and she resided over there in Qawm. For some 17 days, she resided in Qawm, and thereafter she succumbed to her illness and she passed away, and her burial was arranged in the city of Qawm. So she passed away on a night like today, the 4th of Rabi Awwal, in the year 201 after Hijrah. Now, Mu'mineen, just bring to your mind, Musa bin Khazraj al-Sa'id has arrived in Sawa. And Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma has agreed to go with him to Qawm. Just bring to mind what sort of arrangements Musa bin Sa'id would have arranged. Probably there must have been some camels. There must have been, for example, litters or saddles put onto the camels with good forms of hijab, with all forms of medicine provided, water provided, comfort, and all respect, etiquette and honor given to Sayyidah Masuma al-Qawm, moving from Sawa all the way to Qawm. For what reason? Because Musa bin Sa'ad had witnessed the Imam of the time, the 8th Imam, and he said, this is the sister of the Imam, and he gave all this respect to the sister of the Imam. Mu'mineen, history tells us. There was another sister of the Imam who also traveled. This sister of the Imam, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Zainab bint Ali, she did travel, Mu'mineen, but she was put on a camel without any saddles. And she was one who had been looted of all her belongings. And on top of that, she had been whipped and hurt and emotionally broken when she saw the body of her brother, who was an Imam, our 3rd Imam, made to lie onto the ground without its head, and then horses were lined up, and then these horses were brought into the temple, the body of Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam. This is the sister of the Imam, and thereafter they are tied up with ropes and chains and then put onto these camels. And then, without any respect, without any etiquette, that she is the sister of the Imam, she is the daughter of the Imam. The caravan is taken. Worse than the captives are taken on the streets of Kufa towards Sham. And this is what the sister of the Imam, Zainab bint Ali ibn Abi Talib, faced. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ اللهم بحق محمد وآل محمد عليك أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد. Ya Allah, we pray to you by the wasila of Sayyidah Fatima al-Masuma and by the wasila of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, for all those who are not in good health, Ya Allah, we pray to you to grant them shifa, aji wa sa'ad. Ya Allah, we make dua for all our marhumin and especially for the souls of the ulama ikram and maraja idam and the shuhada of Islam. Ya Allah, we pray to you, grant them abundant maghfirah and a'la darajah. Ya Allah, we make special du'as for the mazlumeen and we remember those who are in the countries facing the taghut. Ya Allah, for the mazlumeen, grant them that faraj and that yusr and comfort and relief. And especially for the people who have been affected by the catastrophes of the weathers, the people of Pakistan, Ya Allah, give them that comfort and ease in this difficulty they're going through. Ya Allah, we pray to you for the taghut and the zalimeen, make all their plans to become null and void and defeated at all times. Ya Allah, in these challenging moments of Ghaibatul Kubra, we pray to Ya Allah for ulama ikram and maraja idam, grant them good health, long life, and that they may continue to guide us in these moments of Ghaibatul Kubra. We make special dua for the dhuhr of our Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, Ajalahu Farajahu Sharif, enable us to be from his Ansar and Awwal, بحرمة السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. بسم الله. بسم الله.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا مولاتي يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا وارث عادم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث علي أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاري والبدر المغدور، أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلت ولعن الله أمة ظلمت ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من متلهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الحادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم مؤقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبعا، صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداعه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناصع، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم، وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم، ففزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلام وأقدمهم إيمان وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك النسعة لله ولرسوله ولأخيك، فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر، والأخ الدافي عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه، الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى وأختيك فاطمة المعصومة السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا قابة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجر الله تعالى فرجاك وسحر الله تعالى مخرجاك وظهور العام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم
كل وليك
صلوات الله عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.